For 5 years, she devoted her life completely to him because of his blindness. His physical disability made life difficult for both of them, but her devotion and love for him made her feel that she could overcome any challenge. She became his greatest support. Every day she lived with a series of responsibilities such as preparing meals for him, doing the chores around the house, going out shopping, meeting his every need. Even though he was blind, her love for him helped him overcome his disabilities. But over time, she began to realize that for years she had been ignoring her own life, and that her personal needs and emotional needs had been completely forgotten. In a way, she felt lost in her husband's world. Even though it seemed like a very sacred duty to fulfill all her husband's needs, to support him in every way, the emptiness inside her began to grow more and more. A sense of restlessness, a kind of silent rebellion, was fluttering inside her. Since she had no time for herself, an emotional breakdown began. She had to cope with many challenges beyond her husband's blindness. Physically, he was becoming more and more dependent on her every day. Despite this, she tried to endure everything. But one day, she noticed a change in his behavior that caught her attention. At first, she thought this change was due to fatigue or mood swings. But over time, some of her husband's behavior became so strange that it shook her to her core. She noticed that he was constantly checking his cell phone before going to bed at night. After going through his phone, he would quickly put it in his pocket, and the feeling that something needed to be hidden became disturbing for her. For some time, she had begun to feel a growing sense of mystery and distance in her husband's behavior. But being reserved by nature, she found it difficult to resist this feeling. Gradually, she began to suspect that there might be something else behind his secretive use of his phone. But it was against a woman's nature to voice this suspicion openly. Being alone with this unrest in her emotional world began to consume her more and more. Somewhere inside, she realized that something was wrong with her husband's fidelity. For years, she had been faithful to him in everything, had kept all her longings and doubts inside. But something was missing, and the emptiness and anxiety inside her grew larger and deeper. When she realized this, her greatest fear was that her efforts to keep the marriage alive would lead to its destruction. So, unable to fight her unease any longer, she decided to look for a solution. This time, instead of asking direct questions, she decided to explore her husband's mysterious behavior. Finding the smallest clues about what he was doing became something she had to do to confirm the suspicions growing in her imagination, and her decision would prove to be a major turning point in his world. She decided to install hidden cameras so that she could monitor his every moment. Recording every moment he was in the house was essential for her to resolve the suspicions that had been building up inside her. With cameras hidden in various corners of the house, she tried to make everything appear normal. As the days passed, the woman's anxiety grew. The first clues she noticed were the moments when her husband checked his phone, but the footage from the cameras revealed that everything was much more complicated. She learned that he was with another woman. The fact that her husband was with someone else, disregarding years of loyalty and love, shook her to her core. The images she watched in tears revealed that her years of sacrifice had been unrequited. She thought how meaningless everything had suddenly become. She felt as if all her years of support and loyalty to her husband had suddenly become worthless. All the sacrifices she had made in the face of his blindness were suddenly rendered meaningless by this betrayal. It was a great trauma for her to see her husband leave her when she least expected it. Her heart was shattered. Her love and loyalty had turned into destruction. Thinking that she had fought her husband's blindness and helped him with infinite patience, she suddenly realized that everything had been for nothing. The promises her husband had made over the years had become a great deception. She had lost her trust in his loyalty, but there was no point in trying to regain it. At that moment, a revolution took place inside her. She decided to find her inner strength and independence again. As she faced this reality, she tried to calm her anger and bitterness. She decided to stop living with the pain of the past. She had to come to terms with her husband's betrayal and reevaluate her feelings for him and her relationship of many years. The emotional collapse inside her was making her weak, but she made a decision to overcome this pain. She had lost her self-confidence, but now she was determined to rebuild it. She had to rediscover herself and leave the pain and anger behind. She agreed to face her pain and decided to go through it. Over time, she let go of her anger at her husband's betrayal and gained an important realization of all the sacrifices and loyalties she had made in the past. She had put herself aside and put him first for years, but now she had to give her life a new direction. She decided to leave behind the years of love for her husband and focus on her own life and be reborn. This difficult process changed both her inner strength and her perspective on the outside world. Healing the emotional trauma of her husband's betrayal was the biggest challenge in her life. But this challenge gave her not only pain, but also the courage to build a new life. At this point, at the end of her suffering, she was free from the burden of the past and decided to move forward on her own path. She could now reshape her life and find herself, who had been lost. She realized it was time to free herself. After the pain and the scars of betrayal, she chose to be free, to be happy, and to find true peace for the rest of her life. Despite her husband's betrayal, she decided to embark on her own inner journey and took the first steps towards a new beginning. The pain of the past was behind her. Now she would fight for a new life.